We're seeing some resurgent players. And you often see this around sort of hardcore US Open season because the grass court season has made specialists of a few players. I think Kyrgios is probably one of the only players actually this season to have a good grass court season and then actually do fairly well afterwards as well.
Shoulder surgery is pretty major if you're a tennis player, especially for like serves and stuff. So it seems to have taken him quite a while to get back to the form that we did see a few years ago. I think I saw some highlights again back from like, I don't know, 2018-19. I'm sure he beat some of the top guys then as well. So there was always promise there. When she said she didn't really say like, I'm officially stopping now, but she phrased it in a weird way where it was like, I'm gonna like almost like branch into other things.
She's already done something that, no one had done before and that someone may never do again. So, every time we see that form increase and that form get better, I think it's just a bonus, really. And obviously, I hope that, she does make a deep run in the US Open.
Welcome back to the Getting a Grip podcast. This week, it's the return of a player we I think I'd certainly forgot about. He's been born again, as some have said. It's that man Coric. After he defeated Nadal in the first round, I guess I didn't really think he would, go and win many more matches because quite often players will beat the big guys and then they'll lose in like the next round or the round after. But blimmin' heck, he's gone all the way. Can't believe it. What did you make of this week's proceedings? Obviously, I said Cam Norrie was a wounded animal after the week before, and he came back with a vengeance, got to the semi-finals. So flying the British flag there. What have you made of this week?
Let's start with the Brit, shall we? Cam Norrie, absolutely fantastic. We knew he was going to go far with the way he beat Murray. And that's simply to say, I think I said this to you earlier in the week, and you said the same as well, actually. He really was not playing his best tennis. He wasn't playing amazing at all. He was just getting the job done. And against these big players and against all these people who, they hit big shots week in, week out, the consistency. As long as you can keep making people answer questions, keep asking them the questions, keep making them play the ball, you're going to have a successful week like Cam Norrie did. So I was really happy with the way he played. I was a little bit sad, obviously, with the way the match with Murray ended. I think if it weren't for the cramp, I reckon Murray would have come out on top. Murray was in charge of that match. But unfortunately, much like is the story these days for him, injury got in his way. But no, that was really good. Like you say, on the other side of the draw, like with Borna Coric, I loved that little joke as well. I've got to say, yeah, absolutely fantastic. It's the likes of Pablo Carreño Busta the week before as well. Like we're seeing some resurgent players. And you often see this around sort of hardcore US Open season because the grass court season has made specialists of a few players. I think Kyrgios is probably one of the only players actually this season to have a good grass court season and then actually do fairly well afterwards as well. But obviously, the likes of Carreño Busta and Coric, they're doing well and pushing forward. Despite being a little bit forgotten, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I heard he had like shoulder surgery, but that was like nearly a year ago, maybe. So I haven't really seen much of him in recent months, and until literally like the last week or two. I'm sure he's been kind of like building in the background, but I guess shoulder surgery is pretty major if you're a tennis player, especially for like serves and stuff. So it seems to have taken him quite a while to get back to the form that we did see a few years ago. I think I saw some highlights again back from like, I don't know, 2018-19. I'm sure he beat some of the top guys then as well. So there was always promise there, but I guess the injury kind of curtailed that a bit, and then it kind of takes a long time to get form back in tennis, it seems. It's, as we said, it's a very rhythmical game, so even if you're the top guys, apart from like Nadal and all that, who seem to come back straight away, for a normal player, a normal human being, it takes months and months usually, as we've seen with like Team as well. Like he had that surgery on his hand or his wrist, and I was going to say he's still kind of not quite found that form he had before. So
and it's always
nice.
mental. It's always mental. Like these players have surgery or they've had an injury in a certain part of their body, and even if physically there's no reason for them to think this, they're going to be apprehensive about using that part of their body. There'll be a subconscious element in their brain, a part of their brain that's just not quite as confident as it used to be, and using that part of the body quite the same. I think wrist-wise, actually, the only person who's managed to come back from successive wrist injuries and very happily use his wrist with devastating effect was Juan Martín del Potro. Obviously, the thunderbolts he used to hit off of his forehand because of that wrist action. But yeah, a lot of players, that wrist action is key. It's key to any top level player. But yeah, it's the same with the shoulder. The shoulder's just fundamental. Tennis is a shoulder sport, so it's going to take you a long time to get back to where you were.
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to say, given that he's sort of only recently come back into this form. How do you see Coric going at the US Open? I'm assuming, like, even if he's not seeded, he's going to get a wild card now that he's won that tournament. It's going to be quite hard to back this up, I'd imagine. But again, we're in the hard court swing now, so as you get a feel for these courts, that can transfer over quite easily. Do you see him causing some upsets again over there?
Oh yeah, I think that we have to come to expect it. It's a tough thing to call because we can't guarantee that he will get that wild card because that's very much up to the tournament directors. But they will do it if it brings them fans and brings them notoriety with the tournament. So, I think it's very likely. Someone that beat Nadal, you put him in the same draw with Nadal, then well, you've got something to talk about in that match. Only a couple of weeks ago, obviously this guy beat Nadal, etc., etc., etc. Look for the revenge and all that sort. Tennis is often about these stories, and even if they're very short-lived, only from week 1 to week 2, those stories do help us certainly look forward to and enjoy certain fixtures a lot more. Which is, I think, sometimes the thing that tennis struggles with. Is that because these players play each other all the time? Like we talk about the likes of Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, Murray. They've all played each other 40 plus times or something in their careers or something like that, and it makes it hard to hype up the next one. Nadal and Federer aside, and all of that sort of stuff, with the amazing matches that you have. But even with all of the other players, it makes you hard to hype it up unless you've got something like that to play off. So yeah, I think he probably will get the wild card, and I think he's got good potential to cause upsets because that's some incredible form he's had this week.
Anyone else that you kind of? I know you mentioned Norrie could. Well, he might be your dark horse when we make our predictions next time.
Yeah.
Anyone else lurking around? Because I know, like, I was actually surprised Medvedev didn't win this tournament. To be honest, the form he's had on grass courts, but then it just seems like, as we said, we're not going to have. Given he's number one now, we're probably not going to have that kind of stable number one spot like we used to have, because these guys can beat each other. Whereas it used to be, like the top 3 or 4 could beat each other, and then everyone else
this is it.
Fiddle.
I think it's tough to know when you ask about dark horse, like especially with the US Open. I've said Cam Norrie recently to you because, again, I think we didn't see him play his best tennis. If he brings his best tennis and the attitude he had this week, then there's no reason to say he can't win a tournament. I don't think it's necessarily something I would bet a lot of money on. But, obviously I'd love to see it. As a Brit, I'd love to see it. But I don't know what will happen. And again, you could say the same if you go all these years back to Andy Murray's career. The US Open, suddenly he won it, launched a career and launched a run of a few years where he was quite exceptional. So, again, you can't tell. I think Alcaraz could be a bit dangerous because I think that match with Norrie, dare I say it, this is why Norrie's my dark horse. He came through a lot of tight matches in this week. A lot of matches where he was playing people who I think were better than him. Despite him then winning, Alcaraz was better than him on that day. You saw the shots that he was playing. If you look at the highlights for the Norrie Alcaraz match, wowee! Honestly, Alcaraz is something special when you look at that highlights reel. And it's the same with Andy Murray. You're going like, Andy played much better points. He had way more breakpoint opportunities, converted way more, and yet somehow he didn't come across as a winner. So, Cam Norrie's clearly doing something right. which is why he's the top of my list for a big upset.
Well, that's why he's like in and around the top 10 now, and he's kind of just staying there, basically, sort of stuck there.
Yeah.
Because he can just he's got that match craft, and again, I think it was also when he played in America, he played so much competitive like college tennis, all that. It's really like fine tuned him mentally in these matches to make kind of the right decisions as often as possible.
Oh, big time. And that slice
break points and stuff. So
big time. Yeah. It doesn't scare him like some players. Doesn't lead to a drop in performance. If anything, it makes him play better. Which is, funny enough, going back, it's like something that Murray used to do. I think there are a lot of similarities with their careers. I must admit, in the early stages. Maybe that'll transfer into the wins, but that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that slice serve was just
I love that slice serve. I want to replicate that slice serve.
It's ridiculous. Again, he used it at Wimbledon as well, but like it literally it lands like halfway up the service box and it's like into the crowd before you can even get there.
It's all slice. It's pure slice. It's so lovely.
It's quite hard to read as well, like because of his kind of action when he serves. It's all feels like it's hard to kind of read where his racket's going. So yeah, that is again. You've
just got, and all these players did it. You've just got to go. Fair play, mate. Ace. Done.
Yeah.
Got to walk away and go. Yeah, that's too good.
It's annoying because they're not. It's not like he's like smacking it past.
Yeah, it's not the most powerful serve at all.
Yeah, but there you go. Placement over power. On the women's side, Raducanu coming through. Getting through a couple of big names. Obviously, Serena Williams now. She's on the road to the farewell, isn't she, at US Open, if that is when she retires.
This could be it. Yep.
It was a bit when she said she didn't really say like I'm officially stopping now, but she she phrased it in a weird way where it was like I'm gonna like almost like branch into other things.
Yeah. It's almost that Ash Barty way of retiring, where you're just like, I'm bored of tennis now. I'm going to do something else. I think when you're looking at Williams sort of coming away from the sport, I think unofficially, what was it we had? Sorry to do this again to you, but Andy Murray said something very similar recently, where he was like, "You probably won't know I'm about to retire. I probably won't tell you. I'll just stop playing." And I think Serena is probably the same sort of person. I think you'll just see her one day. She'll stop. We'll look back and say, "Wow, that was a great match to finish," but we won't know that was the last match when we're watching it. Because honestly, I don't think she'll ever want to admit that she's stopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's been such a stalwart of women's tennis, and so. Both her and her sister have been so wonderful for women's tennis as well. That it's done a lot, especially for the fan base.
Yeah, well, I'd be surprised if she doesn't end it at the US Open. But like you said, maybe it's like that whole coaching thing where it's like we've got to finish on a good point, so she's got to finish on a good match.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. Yeah, you might exactly. This is what I'm saying. You might only know afterwards.
Yeah. But anyway, from the older guard to the younger guard, obviously Raducanu did beat her, and then she also beat who was that second?
Victoria Azarenka.
It was Azarenka, yeah.
It was Azarenka, yeah.
Two big guns. Before she then lost to it was American? Was it? I don't know how to say it name properly. Pegula, is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's looking like she's always seems quite comfortable now on these sort of American hard courts.
Yeah.
Have you been quite impressed with kind of how she's been playing this week, I guess?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see like she's got a lot of criticism over the last year, let's put it that way. And one thing that we do try and do when we talk about tennis, we don't try and like go over the top and say negative things about players because you never know the reasons. And some players are going to have a whole host of reasons, whether they admit it in publicity or not. But I'm glad to see her back to some of the form that saw her obviously have that incredible run last year at the US Open. She's already done something that, no one had done before and that someone may never do again. So, every time we see that form increase and that form get better, I think it's just a bonus, really. And obviously I hope that, she does make a deep run in the US Open because it's very entertaining. And she does play a good game. I like the way she plays. Much more aggressive in many ways.
Yeah, that's definitely that definitely goes after my heart.
Yes.
Aggressive style.
Yeah, you like that style more.
I think you're right though. Like, there's obviously loads of pressure on her, but if she was to get to like the second week of the US Open, that would be amazing.
Oh, there'd be a huge buzz again as well.
Yeah. Because she was literally like a qualifier last year, and she went the whole way.
That's
so
right.
if we just think about it realistically, like even to get to the second week, if you try and put the victory last year out of your mind, to actually get through that first week would be incredible. Really, I know she's like seeded like 10 or 11 now in the world. So if you are at that ranking, you would expect them to get that far, but she is still only like 19 or 20. So.
It would be good for her as well if she did have a deeper run, because that would keep that ranking higher and still give her those opportunities in tournaments. Because I think it's a tough place to be when you're going into tournaments, and the numbers says that you're the favourite, but you're not necessarily playing at a level where you should be a favourite, which I think is tough for her. But I think she's starting to rise up to that now, and quite well. So it'd be good to keep her in the higher echelons of the women's rankings.
Yeah, that's just what it's like in tennis, isn't it? On the tour, it's like you're always having to prove yourself, basically, because you've usually got ranking points to protect. So it's like to be able to keep that standard or improve on it's like an ongoing battle that never really stops. Which like we said before, we kind of take for granted with the best players, because it's like a given that they get to like the semi or final every time. But
for sure,
it's a serious competition out there, especially with like more money in the game, more players around. So hopefully she does protect like a lot of those ranking points. That would be nice. Nice to just see a Brit go like for a deep run on the female side.
Big time.
Hey, this week tennis trivia meets grassroots tennis. Slightly different spin on the questions this week. Obviously Merlin has created them for my pleasure or pain.
Spin on the questions. That's a great one. Excellent.
Thank you.
So we talk a lot about grassroots tennis, and I thought it'd be really nice this week if we angled the questions towards that environment, that side of tennis, where some of the answers will either be things that people know already, but it'll also be helpful for people if you're tuning in and you're listening to us and thinking, "Wow, it's great what the ATP Tour players are doing, WTA players are doing. It's great seeing all these amazing tennis players on TV, but how do I start playing like them?" And a lot of these questions might help you answer and give you an idea of where you can start looking. So, without further ado, we'll go straight in with question number 1. So, when we play tennis at the moment, obviously we're used to specific scoring on a TV, and they go up to 6 games, and we go for maybe 3 sets in order to win in a Grand Slam. It's 2 sets at a bigger one. Obviously, that can't be played in an hour. However, a lot of us, when we play tennis, we have other jobs or we have a busy life, and we only really can fit in maybe an hour slot. And one of the things that we've done as a tennis community about that is introduce a new set of rules, and we call that Fast 4 tennis format. So what I want to know from Ben is which of these tactics, is not a part of the Fast 4 format. And here are your 4 options. So it's which of these are not a part of the Fast 4 format. Number 1, sudden death deuce. Serve net chords, or lets as we otherwise call them, are allowed. Sets end when one person gets 4 games. Or the winner is the first to 2 sets. Which of those is not a rule of Fast 4 tennis?
Well, I know sudden death. You said sudden death was that when you phrased the answer? Sudden death is part of it.
So exactly. So what I'm saying is you're looking for the one that's not a part of it. So 3 of them will be correct and 1 is wrong.
Sudden death is let chords are. What was the second or third one? I've forgotten what that was now.
Sets end when one person gets 4 games, and the winner is the first to get 2 sets.
Yeah, I'll go with the last one, please.
And unfortunately, you need to get a grip.
What?
The correct answer is that
Oh.
serve net chords or lets are allowed. And now this is actually a rule that used to exist when Fast 4 first was created. This was a rule. The idea of serving, if it hits the net and goes in the service box, you get that serve again. What people decided is, if it hits the net and goes in, that's such a disgusting shot that no one's ever going to get it. Every tennis player out there hated the rule, and since then it has been changed. Thank God.
So there's a lot of pressure for them to, like, you always hear it come up in commentary that they keep saying, like, just let it, like, allow the let chords. Maybe it'll make it more entertaining.
Great. They're great in the point, but they're not great on a serve. They're horrible. You need to show true craftsmanship, like Norrie, or some big serves like the likes of Isner and Karlovic. That's how you need to win on a serve, not with a dodgy net cord.
Although it still kind of does go against the whole fast mantra, though, because if there's lots of let chords in the serve, then it's just gonna obviously means it takes longer. So that's interesting.
Exactly, it does, but the chances of it happening are very slim. If you can make that a stalwart part of your game, if that's something you can do regularly, then hats off to you. You don't need to be playing fast ball tennis anymore. You should take up the Pro Tour. So like I say, because it's quite a rare thing, eventually the option was decided that it's not necessary anymore. Okay, 0 out of 1 so far. But that was a little bit of a tricksy question. I promise you the next few are not. So question number 2. One charity affiliated with the LTA in the UK champions free tennis for all, and they can do this all over the country, especially on council-run and free-to-play courts. So if you live in a city or you live in a large town, the chances are there is a free-to-play tennis court near you, and they will run coach sessions as part of this charity, normally once a week and normally for a couple of hours. So this is a really good way to get into tennis and start to improve if you feel like you need the coaching but can't afford what is effectively very high fees in tennis. So what I want to know is, what's the name of this charity? Your options are these: Tennis for Free, Free Tennis, Spenny Tenny, or Tim Henny's Not So Spenny Tenny.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That would be an amazing name. I think
it's going to be the name of my new charity. I'm going to set it up with Tim.
I think it's Tennis for Free, unless they've changed it. Have I got it wrong again?
No, that is the correct answer. Well done. So that's 1 out of 2. Yes, unfortunately, it's not Tim Henny's Not So Spenny Tenny. It is Tennis for Free. And if you Google Tennis for Free, you'll be able to see all their locations. You'll also be able to book using the website for the area near you. All you got to do is let them know. No fee involved, all free, as it says, and you can turn up. They'll tell you the times and they'll tell you the locations. So, hopefully anyone listening that's on the edge about joining some tennis, it's a great way to start. There's always lots of lovely people at these sessions, and there's always normally a coach as well, which gets things running.
Yeah, we helped. We did a few of those sessions. So you definitely did more than me, but yeah, we did it.
Yeah, I used to coach a few of them for quite a while in Exeter. They were really good. I know the charity contracted a little bit during the pandemic, but they're starting to open up a little bit more again, which is really good. I think it's a really important part of tennis in the UK, because for a very long time tennis has been somewhat elitist. It does lock people out in terms of money, but like I say, having a charity like this is very, very good.
Cool. 1 out of 2.
Yes, that's right. Ben has got 1 out of 2 questions right so far. So on to question number 3. Now, a slightly different one. We've talked about surfaces quite a lot in the past, which are, one of the things that make tennis so entertaining is we have all these different surfaces where the ball reacts differently, and also some surfaces can be better suited to certain players. What I want to know is, what is the most common surface available in England for tennis courts? And you have 4 very obvious options. One is grass, the other is acrylic, the other is clay, and the last one is hard courts. So we're talking tarmac and or concrete, which is effectively the same stuff. What do you reckon is the most common in England?
Well, I think in Europe it's clay, but I believe in the UK it's tarmac hard court.
Absolutely correct. That's right. So 2 out of 3 now. Yes, in England, the most common type of tennis court is indeed hard courts. This is largely the surface you will find on all free-to-play courts and council-run courts as well, which sometimes have a small fee to play for an hour or so. But yes, that is the most common. Main reason, they're cheaper to build, and that's why they're more common. They're also easier to maintain. They only need to really have the lines painted again every, well, depending on how nice you like to keep it, 5 years, and they only really need to be resurfaced every 10 to 20 years. It all depends how well they're kept and the area that they are in. Grass, whilst obviously that was the original surface, requires way too much maintenance. Acrylic, most common surface choice for indoor courts, but there are far, far more outdoor courts than there are indoor courts, which is something that the LTA is pushing to address, the idea of creating more indoor courts. What's the problem with outdoor courts? Well, it always rains in England, so obviously we need some more indoor ones so that more people can keep playing tennis for the whole year. And obviously, yes, you were correct. Clay is the most popular court in Europe, but it is not in the UK. A little bit harder to import it, and it's pretty much double the cost of a hard court.
There you go.
Well done. Two out of 3. Well done. That's a good start after that tricksy one. So now we're going to move on to how people can compete. So if you're thinking, okay, yeah, I do play a little bit of tennis. I don't really need tennis for free. I'm already a member of a club maybe. And, I'm used to my surface, whatever that might be. We're going to take a look at the sorts of tournaments that you can get into, depending on your level. So to start us off, the question I'm going to ask you, Ben, is what is the lowest grade tournament that a player can compete in across all ages? So what is the lowest grade possible that a player can compete in? You've got 4 options here: grade 1, grade 5, grade 7, and a grade 10. What do you reckon?
Grade 5 is too low. 10 might be a bit high.
Sounds like you're going to split the difference.
Yeah, I'll play it safe. I'll go down the middle. 7. Beckham 7.
Very nice. You had to shoehorn that one in. You are correct. Well done. Yes, the lowest grade tournament you can enter is a grade 7. Grade 7 tournaments are normally local tournaments played at the very club that you might be a member of. So it's a grade 7 if it's sort of internal. So, for example, if you've got a club championships available at your club, that's probably a grade 7 in terms of technically what they would class it as. Grade 6 as well, probably more internal. Grade 5, you're looking at day tournaments where you go away and play at a different venue, bringing people together from further apart. And then when you get down to grades 4, 3, that's when you start getting more like week-long tournaments or a few days. And then obviously grade 2s and 1s are for those people really pushing their tennis on. Grade 3s as well, I would say. But those are for people who are serious about their tennis. So like I say, there are options available for everyone. And I tell you what, no one really would be that out of place in a grade 5 tournament. It's a great place to go and play. If you have a look on the LTA website and compete, you can see grade 5s, grade 6s, they're all available. Normally not too far in terms of distance, unless you live in Devon. There's normally something in a nearby area, in a nearby time, that you can get competing in.
Yeah, go to the, like you said, the LTA competition website, or just if you just Google LTA compete, it should come up. And that's another thing you can do is like just set up an account on the LTA, like with. Yeah, do you have to do it with a local club, or can you sign up first and then?
They like you to be affiliated with a club, but if you are not affiliated with a club, you will still be able to sign up.
Yeah, and I know you can use like local public courts in inverted commas as like a club as well. So
that is right. That is right. Yeah, exactly that. Okay, excellent.
4 or 5? Question
so
4?
That was question 4. We're now on to question 5. 3 out of 4 so far. Let's see if we can get you a nice 80%. So last question. The ITF actually has a statistic for how many people worldwide play tennis. So my question is, what is that number? You've got 4 options here. 10 million, 53 million, 87 million, or 217 million. So how many people play tennis worldwide according to the ITF? It's their flagship stat. As soon as you go onto the ITF website, which is for international tennis, it will have that stat available right away. So what I want to know is how many people play tennis worldwide?
What were the last 2 ones you said?
The last 2 options were 87 million and 217 million.
Don't know whether he was trying to throw me off there, or that is the obvious answer. I mean, well, I suppose I could try and science it, couldn't I? Given that the world population's like 7.8 billion or something, and what percentage of... But then you got to think about developed countries more, maybe, because in terms of court access and facilities, how many people would play in the UK? That's quite a tough one. Then again, America, there's probably quite a few as well, I'd imagine, that play there. I'm going to go with... Oh, God.
Gonna have to hurry you.
I'll go with 87 million. That's a bit conservative,
Final answer?
but I'll go with it. Yeah.
87 million. Unfortunately, you are correct. Well done. That was the correct answer. Yes, the ITF states that 87 million people play tennis worldwide. Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't as high as 217 million. You would think, yeah, it's a bit higher, but you were completely right as you started to logic that. Some people don't have access to tennis the way that we in a developed country do. This comes down to facilities and obviously all of the paraphernalia, all of the bits you need to play tennis. Certain shoes, well, not necessary, but often required by a lot of clubs. They need non-marking soles, and also rackets and balls. Balls being something that is actually quite expensive, even though it's like £4 a tube, £5 a tube. But obviously that racks up. So yes, 87 million. Well done. 4 out of 5, 80%. How are you feeling? That's a good result for you.
Decent, yeah. I would say actually the reason I like tennis is that the equipment is fairly minimal actually compared to a lot of sports, because technically, like you said, I mean, most places you should get away with like just some normal trainers and sports kit, like you might go to the gym or something, and then you just hopefully you can borrow a racket. Usually someone will have a spare, and the balls don't even need to be that good. In fact, if you're just starting out, whether used balls are better anyway because they don't bounce as much, so you can control it a bit better. So that's actually what I like about it, like generally minimal equipment. Obviously, as you go up the levels, it becomes a bit more finicky. Or
so when you start to join a club, and there's obviously sometimes yearly fees for obviously joining that club as a membership. These fees are necessary for clubs to run in order to provide the facilities that obviously they have, especially because building a court can be very, very expensive. For example, the minimum you could get away with building one tennis court is about £10,000, and that's doing it on the cheap, as it were. So, it can be a pricey endeavour.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll take 4 out of 5. Let us know kind of what stage you're at with your tennis. We'll link some stuff, at least for UK people, down in the description in terms of how to get involved and stuff. Often people put their own kind of like mental barriers up to these things, but actually if you literally just do like a few minutes of research, often that's enough to figure out like how to get involved.
Quite right.
And just let us know your thoughts on Cincinnati and the US Open coming up, all that sort of stuff. And if you have liked it, follow it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, like it, subscribe, share it around if you can, and we will see you in the next one, which will probably be a US Open preview. I think actually it's coming up pretty soon. So see you then.